It just says preparing to live stream. Guys, give me one more second. We're just waiting to go live on YouTube.
It says it is, Nicole, whether it is or not.
Yeah, now it is. Oh, it's a little bit behind. Say it again. It just says preparing to live stream. Guys, give me one more second. We're just waiting to go live on YouTube. I need to. Now it is. Yeah, but I can't even figure out how to. Okay. I don't know where to get that from. I just clicked on Chrome, so it's gonna open a Chrome.
Isn't that, what does that say?
Recording stop. Sorry. Yeah, but I can't even. Is it down here maybe? Okay, the Zoom. This is live on YouTube.
See. I know, but there should be another.
That says recording.
I can't see.
Oh, I found it, Peggy. Okay, sorry guys, technology challenged. I talked to Garrett, he's having trouble logging in. I'm gonna let Kathy into the meeting now. Kathy, are you there? Hang on. Kathy, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, we're just getting the meeting started now. We just let you in a little bit early, and Nick will tell you when it's time for citizen comments.
Okay.
Okay, Nick, whenever you're ready.
I'm ready.
We'll get Garrett to join in as soon as he can get logged on.
All right.
What's Garrett's issue?
He just said that it just shows that he's trying to connect and it's not doing anything.
How about Frank?
Frank is here.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Now I see it, but I lost Chad when he came up. What do I do?
So
Robert's gone.
he's there. If you
Little arrows at
You
the
have to
top.
expand. You have to expand your window.
yeah, you have to make it bigger.
Help me out. I'm a 12-year-old.
That box on your right that has all the pictures, move it up to the top and then go down to the bottom border and drag the corner of it to expand it.
Go to the bottom and drag it, or the top?
So
you move it up to the top of your screen or whatever, and then at the bottom corners, you'll see a little box that you can grab in the very corner and make it larger. If you just make that video box bigger, you'll start to see everybody.
Well, now all I've got is your ugly mug.
Do you see the button? Hey, Nick, this is Daniel. It's
Yeah,
the grid with like 9 tiles.
Yes, I got
click
that.
on that.
Okay.
Try to drag at the bottom left or right corner.
All right, I got Daniel on hold, I bet. So now I've got Nicole, Nick, Daniel Mazak without a picture, possibly I've got Rick, and I've got Tips. What do I do from
To
there?
drag it down versus.
How do I
just
drag? Do I
right.
drag from the 9 dots?
No.
No, from the
box?
little tick marks at the bottom.
The box of the pictures, the box of us with all the pictures in it, at the bottom of that box, either in the left or right corner, there's 3 little lines.
Okay, all right.
Click on one of those and drag it.
You have to hold it as you drag, Nick.
I'm dragging. Okay, I've got Nicole, Nick, Tips, Chad, Rick. I'm presuming Kathy, but I don't see her face, and I've got Frank. Is that who we have on?
Yes.
Okay, are we ready?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm not very good at this.
That's okay.
That was a ruler, not a gavel. Thank you, everybody, for being here for the regularly planned City of Port Aransas Planning and Zoning Commission, Tuesday, July 28th, 2020. We're going to open up citizens' comments and reports. Bear with me. At this time, comments will be taken from the audience on any subject matter. Please limit comments to 3 minutes in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. The Planning and Zoning Commission may not discuss or take action on any item that has not been posted on the agenda. Stop. Are we good there? Do we have anything?
Hello?
Is this Kathy?
Yes, this is Kathy Fulton.
Kathy, you're up, baby.
Okay, hi. Yes, I just wanted to ask and say something about the dune walkovers that were approved both for Newport, Palmilla, the 4 walkovers that were approved at the April 28th meeting, and then the Grand Caribbean walkover that was approved at the May 26th meeting. I'd like to know why the GLO letters were dated so far after. One dated July 6th, and the other one to Newport dated July 9th. In these GLO letters, it appears to me that they didn't really agree on certain things that ended up being approved. The Newport was going to do about 35,522 square feet of damage to dune vegetation. And the other was going to do 3,162 square feet. What's interesting about that was for one, and this one for the Newport, that's 35,522 square feet. That's, I mean, even at 4 times, that shouldn't be between 12 and 13,000. I mean, I don't understand why some of this wasn't looked at, but apparently the GLO thinks the city needed to minimize the proliferation of the excess private access points and permit only the minimal number necessary for these. And they were talking about that Newport application. That's one of their comments. Another of their comments that's on both is that the width of these proposed dune walkovers needed to be limited for pedestrian volume traffic, which means they wanted them narrower. And you know, here again, it says that the construction of these walkovers does not conform with the Dune Protection and Improvement Manual for the Texas Gulf Coast, and it said it doesn't comply with this guidance for both of them. And yet they were approved. So how come these are not included in the packets? And if they're supposed to be included, then shouldn't the applications be considered incomplete? It's up to the commission to work harder at vetting these issues first before approval, because both of these permits are in conflict with what the GLO was requiring. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Nicole?
So we don't have anybody else for citizen comments? I don't know, Rick, do we want to respond at all for the process of that?
Yeah, Kathy, let me just tell you the process. First off, all those GLO letters, the process is such that when a dune permit is presented to planning and zoning for their review and comments, it's not until zoning has acted, either approving or rejecting, that it's sent to GLO for review. Because if planning and zoning rejects it, you know, that we won't send it to GLO for review. You know, again, we'll make sure that we've got reconciliation before we'll even send it. So it isn't until we get an approval from planning and zoning that it's sent to GLO for review. So once that happens, then of course it is held up going to council for final approval on planning and zoning's recommendation. It's held up going to council until that letter comes back, until those reviews come back from GLO. So anytime a dune permit goes to city council, with rare exception, and if there's an exception, then it's noted, but with rare exception, and it isn't related to these dune permits, those letters are presented with the packet to city council. And so there's those walkovers were discussed actually quite a bit. And again, if you parse the words with GLO, and City Council certainly did, they talk about their dune walkover guidelines and guidance. So it's not a mandate. Would make our jobs a lot easier if GLO would come in and actually mandate certain things, but they don't. They have guidance. So what was discussed was that planned unit development, for example, down south, Newport, was approved by City Council. Their planned unit development was approved with 6 walkovers. So in planning and zoning meetings of yesteryear, one of the discussions and actually one of the concessions made, it's on the record, was reducing it to 4. And when you look at the beach and you look at the aerial, the number of homes that are going to be served by that planned unit development at build out, it's again, like walkovers, it's certainly consistent with what has been approved in the past to serve that. The alternative that was also discussed at City Council is that without a walkover that in this case goes up above and over the dunes, then there is no permitting and no requirement that anybody even look at pedestrian walkovers. If they were to start a pedestrian path and just walk through the dunes, and you can imagine what a large number of people that did that consistently would do to the dunes. There could be dozens, if not hundreds, of those walk paths that actually, theoretically could create cuts that do more damage going through the dunes than these new walkovers do going above and over. So again, without me weighing in one way or the other, as far as like it or not, I can tell you those were some of the discussions at City Council, and how the process works. So it doesn't go to GLO until cleared planning and zoning.
Okay, I don't think we have anybody else for citizen comments, Nick.
Okay.
What about, you want to make any comment about Willie's letter?
Right, and that should have been included in the packet. You guys had all of that, correct?
I got it from Willie directly.
Okay, it's a part of your packet,
Okay.
so everybody should have received that as well.
Yeah, it looks like it is. I just didn't open it in there because I already had a copy of it.
Sure.
I think most of us were emailed that too. I know I got it a couple days ago directly from him as well.
I just wonder if there was any comment from the staff on that.
Yeah, Frank, I mean, like I said, Will had a lot of good points, and there's a lot of moving pieces to the process. We've made mistakes with, it isn't referenced for the hundreds and hundreds of projects we look at. We missed some, we made some errors, everybody did. Ultimately, it falls back on staff. So like I said, from staff's perspective, we're going to continually strive to do better. Rather Willie can encourage action to raise taxes to hire more people. Certainly, I'll be the first to admit there's a whole lot more people more competent than me. If City Council chooses to tell David to hire him and do it, not my call. That's a budgeting decision. But all we can do is just hopefully try to get the commission as much training and encourage them to be familiar, us and then the engineers too. Like I said, a lot of perfect storm failures in a couple of the things he mentioned, and not going to shirk responsibility. Like I said, we look at a lot of things and things get missed. That's why the process has so many different eyes on it, and we just got to trust that at some point, if it misses the a couple of those eyes, that it gets caught. That's all I can say is that we just we'll commit to work better, and we've had discussions with engineers, and every time we miss something or there's a failure, we discuss it, and like I said, just try to do better.
That's fine, Rick, and I think you and I have talked about that already, and I'm good with that. I just was wondering if there's anything other than what you just said that you wanted to address to, because I would imagine that Willie's watching this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to,
That's good.
yeah, what else, what else to say, but, we appreciate everybody. Like I said, it's a team effort. Like I said, that's why the process oftentimes involves planning and zoning and council, staff planning and zoning and council, almost invariably professional engineers. So like I said, the process has a lot of checkpoints and balances. And so, like I said, we just need to hope that those work as they're supposed to at some level.
You good, Frank?
I'm good, yeah.
Okay. I still have the same people. No other people are on, Garrett, or, okay.
Nobody.
We'll go to item 2, public hearing. In accordance with the Open Meeting Act, Planning and Zoning Commission is prohibited from acting or discussing other than factual responses to specific questions. Any items brought before them at this time, comments will be limited to 3 minutes or less. I'm assuming I'm moving forward. 2.1 FPLT 201642 final plat of lots 1 through 4, block 1, Sandpoint Townhomes, as shown on a map recorded in volume 60, page 119, map records in Oasis County. Applicant Rudy Barrera for R. Adams, property location 633 Anchor Drive, Port Aransas, Texas 78333.
Yeah, since Adams pertains to Rick Adams, I'm going to let Nicole set it up, and then I'll step back in as a citizen and kind of give you guys the lowdown.
This is just a public hearing,
This
so
is
this
a
is not
public
the
hearing.
agenda item. So I will when it's the agenda item, but right now we can.
Public hearing, you got it.
Item 2.2, public hearing, Flex 201646. Applicant is proposing to build approximately 183 workforce housing dwelling units. Applicant is requesting a slight increase in the density allowance and a slight reduction in the parking requirement, and will restrict the use to long-term occupancy in perpetuity. Applicant, Port Aransas Public Facilities Corporation, property location 2700 Highway 361. All right, we will move to items for consideration. Discuss, take action, or pass on any of the following. Discuss and take action on electing a chairman and a co-chairman for the 2020 to 2021 term. I'm going to take a motion nomination for chairman first and co-chairman, and I'm going to respectfully not be assumptive, but I'm going to request that will not be requested or voted to be chairman or co-chairman. So I am opening up to motion/nominations for chair first.
So are you saying you're done, Nick? Is that the,
I'm just not
Done at
interested
the
in
helm?
being chairman or co-chair. I've got a lot on my plate, and I take this seriously, and I can still be do my homework and contribute, but I don't recall how long I've been chair, but it's been long enough. Any motions for chair?
I'll make a motion. Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion for Robert Titz for chair.
We've got a motion for Robert Titz. Do we have a second?
Second.
Got a second from Chad?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just call the roll for the motion for Robert to be chairman, and then we'll move on to co-chairman separately. Clark Smith,
Yes.
Robert Titz, Robert, I'm not sure we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, Frank Morgan.
Willing to accept it.
Well, Frank,
No.
Chad Schmiedis,
Yes.
Garrett Kipke,
Yes.
and Nick Lorette.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, we'll take a motion nomination for the co-chair for 2020, 2021.
I'd like to say that having served for co-chair, as co-chair for the last 4 years, I'd like to withdraw. I do not want to be considered as co-chair.
So Nick is not in and Frank is not in, so we're looking for somebody else.
So that
She's
leaves,
not here. She's not here, but I'd like to nominate Vanessa.
So we have a nomination for Vanessa.
I will second that, but should we ask her?
that's what happens when you're not here.
No.
I think that she would probably be okay. I think that she would probably be okay with it.
All right.
Okay. So that was a motion from Frank.
Me, Frank.
Right?
And I didn't hear who the second, was that you, Clark?
Yes.
And okay, so Robert Tips,
Yes.
Clark Smith,
Yes.
Chad Schmiedis,
Yes.
Frank Morgan,
Yes.
Garrett Kipke,
Yes.
and Nick Lorette.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Well, congratulations to you, Robert, and Vanessa and Abstentia, and Nick. Thanks to you, and Frank, it was co-chairman. Thank for you guys for your leadership all these years too.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
I'd like to say the same.
And Mr. Tips, Mr. Chair, I'd like to hand over the gavel to you.
Does he need to change seats?
Yeah, come over to Avenue
Move to the
A.
middle.
Okay, so we're on 3.2.
Before we proceed, I have a question. Did we not have minutes from the last meeting to approve?
So because I had just gotten back from maternity leave, I was playing catch up and have not had those minutes. So you're going to have actually several copies of minutes at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Is everybody able to hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm getting very glitchy reception at my house today, so I don't know if it's storm related or I need to check my internet connection. Just let me know if you lose me at any point. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, everybody else. The item 3.2, continuing on, discuss and take action to confirm the dune permit BFDP 20-1468 is consistent with the city's coastal management plan. The proposed permit will allow the construction of a single-family residential home and associated residential improvements. Applicant Chihoki Agbu, is that
Good enough.
close?
Close.
Property location 2096 Sandpoint Circles.
And we do have Daniel Mazak, who was the submitter of this dune permit on behalf of the property owner.
You guys,
Hey, Daniel.
Right. So if you guys will look at the exhibits, this property actually is kind of the gateway into the Beach Lodge project, probably for a good reference point. But again, at the end of Sandpoint Circle, in that kind of that corner of that cul-de-sac, it isn't a lot that well. Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong. It doesn't look like the lot, for whatever reason, was ever pre-flattened, or regardless, certainly acquired a topography that would be consistent with critical dunes. It's vegetated, so I'm not sure the how it had ever escaped preparation like a lot of the other Sandpoint lots, but obviously the pictures Nicole have up there show that quite properly, be no question, a dune permit would be required, and that's what you see there. So the again, it is pretty straightforward. However, the limits of construction are there. I think the measurements on exhibit, which exhibit is this? That show the impacted dune. I think 27 cubic yards, mitigated dune area, 27 cubic yards, 1-to-1, is pretty well laid out. And again, with that said, there's nothing other than the construction of single family residence and the amenities that are in discussion here. And the exhibits do show the limits of which that construction will take place. So with that, staff's opinion, it is consistent with our coastal management plan. Therefore, we recommend approval.
Daniel, did you have anything you wanted to add? Or did anybody have
Not specifically. I mean, it's a pretty like a run-of-the-mill kind of dune permit. A lot of these communities haven't handled dune permitting on a kind of global basis. So this is a permit where my dad had done some plans for this client. In fact, he had done them for a previous owner, I guess, who was also a doctor, and then he sold it to another doctor friend of his or something that's now looking at building a home on that property. And he realized kind of after the fact the dune permitting process. And so I offered to help him get through that process by preparing this permit on the lot. And so this is one of these kind of single lot uses where we're trying to mitigate that volume. What's slightly different about this from a typical permit is that a portion of the mitigation is proposed to be off-site. And I talked to, and I forgot her name right now, but the manager of the Sandpoint Owners Association. And she indicated that in order, they'll like approve the mitigation to be located on that common lot located behind the property, but she first wanted council's approval before presenting that to the board. And then they would grant like permission to do that mitigation on that homeowners association lot located behind this lot. And so that's why that approval is not included with this package, but it can be provided and will be provided after that's received.
So Daniel, would it be fair to advise the commission that if they choose to vote for approval, that it is conditioned on the approval of the offsite mitigation site? Because otherwise it would, we obviously would request it come back if anything other than that were to transpire.
Correct. That would be fine.
The fact that it's on a secondary location, the mitigation, does that create the need for another dune permit on, I think it's lot 34R is where the mitigation is going, or does the dune permit encompass both lots in this case?
Daniel, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but you'll reach out to GLO for that permission. Is that correct?
Well, this isn't a GLO owned lot. So the lot's owned by the Sandpoint Owners Association. And so the mitigation is identified as being present on that lot. And I believe there was a question in the permit, I don't know the exact location, where it asks about offsite mitigation. Is that required? And then identifies that property as being the location of the mitigation.
So Chad, it becomes part of this dune permit. It doesn't need a whole separate dune permit. It's the dune permit encompasses both of that.
Perfect, thank you.
Daniel, too, we wanted to point out that this isn't a VE zone. You said that there was already plans drawn up for the house, and we can talk about this afterwards, but I just want to make sure that you know to have that discussion with Rick and I.
Okay.
Prior to a building permit.
Okay, and this is really intended to be the extent of my involvement in it. I don't plan to do these very often or at all, but I was trying to help my dad out on this one. So I'm not doing the engineered plans for the foundation or any of that. Just trying to help through the
so maybe
dune permitting process.
Pass along to your dad that he needs to have that conversation with us.
Okay.
More questions or discussion?
questions for me?
Invite a motion.
I'd make a motion to confirm that the dune permit BFD P 201468, not confirmed, but is consistent with the city's coastal management plan, with the condition that upon City of Port Aransas approval, that the HOA approval obviously has to be received for this to be approved. I mean, to be put forward.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
That was Clark again.
Yes.
Chad Schmitis.
Any discussion?
Sorry.
I had the same question. I appreciate you bringing that up because I was concerned about putting the mitigation on another lot. So I'm glad to hear that was discussed. But I guess it's the question that I always have: who's going to be responsible for ensuring that the mitigation is followed through? I'd like to see that we somehow put that in there, that in the motion, that the engineer be responsible for that.
Frank, right now, the way our coastal management plan is, and we had talked about that, that requirement doesn't exist in code right now. But like I said, the way it exists right now is that it does fall to the city, which is us, to ensure that it's done. The rub and always the challenge has always been that they've got 3 years in which to do it. In most cases, the dune permits we've seen as of late, they bring them in because they proceed. They intend to proceed with construction and usually accomplish pretty quickly. But like I said, the larger scale projects, that's been the challenge, is that they've got 3 years to complete it.
Well, I understand that, Rick, but we've also had conversations that the city does not have the staff to do this. It goes back to your comment about Willie, do we raise taxes to hire more employees? And I'm just expressing my concern, as I always do when it comes to mitigation. We never know really that and I would be the last person to go out and say, yep, 27 cubic yards. I wouldn't have a ghost of a notion of what that is, but I just think that we need to really continue to focus on that.
I haven't, and Frank, I can tell you that since those discussions and since we never really kind of got consensus with the, we did convene city engineer and some others, and like I said, it kind of got derailed like a lot of things with a lot of things. Of course, the virus intervened on top of the other interventions. But my point is that I can tell you, we have been doing a much better job. For example, the Big Cinnamon Shore project, Nicole and I both went out there, and I'm with you that it's, we wouldn't be able to determine if 2,685 cubic yards were actually moved to the exact location. But what we also learned in our early discussions about trying to come up with an alternative process that mandated that, the engineers kind of told us the same thing, is that, they might entertain, some kind of involvement, but they weren't going to be able to guarantee down to that. And I guess what we kind of learned was that although it's a precise process in presentation and practical matters, neither really engineers nor GLO are, how do I want to phrase this, willing to say that it's scientifically precise. What we've also learned, neither is that GLO, it doesn't seem like it's their expectation either. Does it look reasonably like what was presented? Is it not egregiously different? And those things we have determined that if that's the measurement threshold, we can do that. But like I said, that's where that process, the process didn't die. Like I said, we did convene a meeting and we couldn't, like I said, we couldn't get consensus that we'd have engineers that were willing to do that necessarily. So that, again, I'm just offering that up as information.
Let's take it back because we have a motion and a second on the floor. You know, we kind of had this discussion many times over, but we need to address the motion and the second.
Just to cap it off, Chairman, let me tell Frank, we are responsible for it. And again, at some point there may be a better solution, but right now we're having to figure it out and we've got it on our radar. And like I said, Nicole and I are going out there and we're actually looking at these properties. I can tell you that.
Okay,
Call the roll.
Todd Shemitis,
Yes.
Clark Smith,
Yes.
Garrett Kipke,
Yes.
Nick Lorette,
Yes.
Frank Morgan,
yes.
and Robert Tips.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Moving on. Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate it. Item 3.3, discuss and take action on FPLT 20-1642, the final plat of lots 1 through 4, Block 1, Sandpoint Townhomes, is shown on map recorded in volume 60, page 119. Map records of Nueces County, Texas. Applicant Rudy Barrera for R. Adams. Property location 633 Anchor Drive. Port Aransas.
Uh-oh, I think we lost Robert.
Yourself. Okay.
Back.
Sorry, you are glitching just a little bit.
That better at all?
We can still hear you. You froze for a second.
Okay. This is the one that Rick wanted to recuse himself on, and I guess, Nicole, you're going to represent staff on this.
Okay. Yeah, let me pull it up here. Hang on just a second. Okay, so this is what you guys can see on the screen is going to be our narrative on it. So this is a replat of an 8-unit townhome project that 4 of them have already been built. They're taking these 4 lots and adding 1 additional to bring it into 5 lots. The project density would actually allow for 7 units there based on our 21 units per acre. This is 0.3 of an acre. So the math that you can see on that shows that it would allow 7 units. Obviously, the property owner is only proposing 5 here. So the setback, they are offering us an additional setback. So instead of the 20, it's going to be a 23-foot setback. And they're actually built even further back to have the parking in front of the property. The you can read on here, these units will have backyards and the driveways will be separated by a pervious landscaping area. And there is a site plan and elevations in your packet that show that landscaped area in between. And basically that's it. We've got approvals from the reviewing engineer, and we've got approvals from all the utility companies. So staff recommends approval.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Elaborate a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah.
Property owner Rick Adams.
Yeah. So Nicole set it up pretty well. So I've had this property since the late 90s, and a little bit of trivia history. This was Don Hunt was a developer of the Sandpoint development, but he platted 8 lots separately. So it's to the best of my knowledge, it's actually the first platted townhome project in Port Aransas, although Bill Whitten built the Little Lakes townhomes, got started sooner. So we were framing the first 4 when the planes hit the towers. And we all know one of the outcomes, besides all the tragedy, was that real estate kind of came to a screeching halt. So we never built the other 4. and it sat there, and I had contemplated just selling the property outright, but I just knew that if I did that, there'd be no control, and I just had an opportunity with kind of somebody to take care of the building phase and really could do it better than the first 4 we built that were pretty big. Anchor Drive has evolved into just a thoroughfare. And so we decided that we would voluntarily push them further back by plat. And I even submitted the site plan as a commitment. And again, I do it not because it's required, but as a commitment, because like I said, it can be incorporated into this whole record. That we're going to push them even further back. We're going to push them probably at least 36 foot off of Anchor Drive. Again, rather than an 8-unit sea of concrete for driveways, by separating this building, like I said, rather than just having one big 8-unit project, we could create a pervious surface, a setback between the 2 units. And we could separate the driveway. We could do a little bit. We could do it different, again, having learned, like I said, and there was really no desire to maximize the density. It just wasn't necessary. So that's it. This is, like I said, it's in actuality a phase 2. I probably could have argued some certain vesting rights because I actually permitted all 8, only built the 4 with respect to parking. But I just wanted to meet all the current codes and come in with less density, a little bit better landscaping than some of the things that you guys have seen. So with that, if there's any specific questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. There's no common elements. There's no internal drives. I front on a city street. Like I said, so I wish Vanessa was here because we get into this often, but these are if you guys approve it, there'll be 5 separate fee simple lots with dwelling units that share a common wall, a firewall. So I'll shut up and if you guys have any questions.
Any other questions? Discussion? Provide a motion. Are y'all able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
You're fine. I was just waiting for somebody else to make a motion. I'll make a motion to recommend approval for FPLT 20-1642 as it was presented.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion from Nick Lorette and a second from Garrett Kipke. Clark Smith,
Yes.
Frank Morgan,
Yes.
Garrett Kipke,
Yes.
Nick Lorette,
Yes.
Chad Shemidas,
Yes.
and Robert Tips.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay,
guys.
moving on. Item 3.4, discuss and take action to confirm that dune permit BFDP 20-1698 is consistent with the city's coastal management plan. The proposed permit will allow the construction of a single-family residence with typical residential amenities, i.e. decks, driveways, utilities, irrigation lines, associate landscaping, etc. The applicant is Al Honningbloom. The property location is 604 Ocean View. Rick, you want to go ahead and start us off?
Sure. I think most everybody's familiar with the Ocean View subdivision. Again, this is another lot, much like the Sandpoint lot, that just currently has, although in a subdivision, never when the subdivision was first developed, never did any dune permitting for the lot. So again, this is a fairly native lot, for lack of a better term. It does have critical dunes, hence the dune permit. So as the application applies, explains, it's to mitigate, compensate the site to build a single family residence in that subdivision. The exhibit attachment number 4 probably is to me the most representative, showing the impacts, the affected critical dunes, and then where the mitigation site is. Not a significant amount by a lot of our dune permit standards, but enough that it does require the dune permit. So again, another one that is pretty straightforward. I think they did a pretty good job. If you'll notice the layout of the house, kind of to position it, position it as best they could to minimize that. I think that's why you see the impacts a little bit less than you would for a house this size in a dune protection area. So with all that said, again, it is consistent with the coastal management plan. The reviewing engineer agreed. Staff recommends approval.
And we do have William Waltz, who's the applicant engineer, on the line.
Hi.
Okay, for any discussions or questions?
I do have one question, actually. It looks like they are going to be doing the mitigation right there at the corner of Ocean View Estates and Avenue G. And they're going to be raising that corner by 3.5, 4 feet. Is there any concern for blocking sight distance for traffic?
Actually, good question. If I'm looking at the topography, and Will, you jump in, it looks like they're actually in. So I'll let Will address that question.
Yeah, so they're raising that up a little bit, but they have a couple feet out there where that retaining wall is. On that side, there isn't going to be traffic obstruction or obstruction of view for traffic on that side, because we're keeping.
You didn't get a picture that has a retaining wall, do you?
I think there should be some down below.
Not really of the retaining wall.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's going to be an issue there with that amount of fill.
Yeah, you can kind of see how it's already sticking up there.
Yeah, and that it's not going to be higher than any of that vegetation there. This is the best corner.
Yeah. Yeah, I have no issues. Well, I will, assuming no further discussion, make a motion to approve dune permit BFDP 20-1698 and saying it's consistent with the city's coastal management plan.
Second.
Was that second? I apologize. Was that second? Nick? Okay. All right. Frank Morgan?
Yes.
Garrett Kipke?
Yes.
Nick Lorette?
Yes.
Chad Schmides?
Yes.
Clark Smith?
Yes.
Robert Tips?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Moving on, we are on item 3.5. Discuss and take action on Flex 20-1646. Applicant is proposing to build approximately 183 workforce housing dwelling units. Applicant is requesting a slight increase in the distancing allowance and a slight reduction in the parking requirement, and will restrict the use to long-term occupancy in perpetuity. Applicant is the Port Aransas Public Facilities Corporation. Property location is 2700 Highway 361.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the Public Facilities Corporation is the city's nonprofit entity created to for projects like this, becomes the public side of a public-private partnership. But this is our long-awaited workforce housing apartment project whose genesis was really kind of post-Harvey. where the GLO had promised to throw some money at us, since we really had received very little in the form of housing recovery dollars. And after a couple of year battle, there's reneging on some of those promises, a lot of political intervention, a lot of moments where this whole project was touch and go. It finally happened, ultimately with us purchasing the property there adjacent to the airport. They actually see some excavation going on now. The dilemma, of course, with this project, as important as it was that there was a significant amount of driveway access that, again, with the density calculations that you see there, did put us short by our own ordinance formula. The good news is that although the flexible development ordinance was written well before this was ever even contemplated, you go down the list and it almost looks like the textbook reason that the ordinance was written for just this kind of consideration. And again, it talks about in the very purpose, just a couple of highlights of the ordinance, just that it's 25.310, by the way, is the ordinance for anybody.
It's on the screen.
Oh, there you go. But again, the idea of some of the flexibility and deviation parking requirements is right there. Again, the flexibility, again, allowing for the development to become more affordable. The next block goes in and talks about eligible projects, unique residential construction or modification designed for workforce housing. Again, the development bonuses and allowances that are referenced, higher density development projects. That's referenced in modification to on-site parking. And then finally, again, just a couple of the other highlights, the minimum requirements for the flexible development is that there be a public or community benefit realized, and that any of the housing related increased density strictly has to prohibit transient rental. So it touches almost all the buttons of the flexible development ordinance. And as you guys know, it is a low to moderate income project. Like I said, and had it not been for the significant roadways and the wider roadways, we probably could have met density. But as we looked at it, the last thing you want to do in an apartment complex like this, at least in our opinion, was skinny the roads, even if you could. You wanted them to be adequate and to be absolutely big enough for our public emergency vehicles to transit. And so, like I said, although you could have made them a little skinnier, like I said, I don't think that's ever the right approach either, especially when you have the flexible development ordinance. So bottom line here is what we're asking for. So the number of units that would be strictly allowed by the 7.26 acres, of which a good portion is wetlands, by the way, would be 152 units. So the project, as it's been submitted, is 183 units. A lot of those units, if you'll notice, Nicole, if you'll go back to that sheet, but if she's getting there, a lot of those units, 93 of them are one bedroom. So again, we know from history that a lot of those units won't need the parking as would a comparable single family residence. A lot of those people, a percentage, we are pretty much confident won't have any vehicle at all. So we don't think it's a real stretch to, from the 311 parking spaces we have, to the 384 that we need in the strictest sense to just meet our own guidelines. So that's really the ask by the Facilities Corporation for the city. The greater good being the first workforce housing project, affordable low to moderate income apartment complex in decades. So the ask is an approval to allow 183 units where 152 would only be allowed by strict interpretation, and then allow 311 parking to suffice for the 384 that would be specifically needed for the number of units. And again, the those units will never be for transient rental. And that would be incorporated, and whether it's incorporated in the motion or not is an absolute, and would be recorded in such a fashion.
Well, having been on the committee to approve this earlier, I move for approval of Flex 20-1646, allowing applicant to build approximately 183 workforce housing dwelling units and with a slight increase in density and a slight reduction in parking requirements, with the restriction to long-term occupancy only.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I guess, if I may say something, I guess I never really realized that the city was going to be able to rent these out as transient units ever. I thought that this was always a workforce housing project.
The zoning allows for it.
The zoning allows for it, Garrett, but because it's a HUD, low to moderate income project, the very nature of the project as it's being built doesn't allow it. You're correct. And so it wasn't a matter of that, but we wanted to point out that it's long-term only anyway.
This isn't a HUD project. Is that what you said?
It is. It's a housing and urban development partnership because there's tax credits involved. And so 80% of the units right now, approximately 80% will be low to moderate income. The other 20% will be market rate, basically as a I don't want to say a subsidy, that sends the wrong message, but basically to help supplement the revenue stream.
Rick, I do have a quick question. Just on the 183 units, our parking is calculated based on bedrooms, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so if you take what you got up here is 93 one bedroom, 72 two bedrooms, and 18 3-bedroom units, you actually come up with 291 bedrooms.
Except that even for a 1-bedroom, it's a minimum of 2 per unit. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we got to add 93 for the 1-bedroom. Gotcha. So that's where your 384 came up.
Robert?
I said on a lot of those 1-bedrooms, there's only going to be 1 car, and in some instances, probably none.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, we have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Nick?
Okay. All right. Frank Morgan.
Yes.
Garrett Kipke.
No.
Nick Lorette.
Yes.
Chad Schmides.
Yes.
Clark Smith.
Yes.
And Robert Tips.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, we are done with items for consideration. We'll move on to number 4, Planning and Zoning Commission comments and items for future consideration.
Nicole, did you
So
send?
I didn't send it. I apologize. I wanted to actually talk to you more about it before I sent it, but we do have this workshop that's coming up. You guys can see it there on your screen. Let me make it a little smaller. So it's going to be done on a webinar, on a Zoom meeting. But it could be beneficial for some additional training for you guys if anybody's interested.
Yeah, Frank, I'm gonna go.
Pardon me? What'd you say? You're going to go?
Just so you know, I said I'm not afraid of getting as much training as we can. The law firm that's conducting it is one of the probably preeminent municipal law firms, and they do a significant amount of training in Texas. So they are a first-class educator in these matters. So they're, like I said, they're definitely experts in planning, zoning, platting, a lot of those things. But the part that caught us was an in-depth coverage of zoning boards, zoning boards of adjustment. So that's not you guys specifically, but if when they had that the target audience was P and Z members, we just felt just felt it was incumbent upon us to mention it. We've got a budget to pay for anybody that's interested in doing it. So like I said, Nicole will forward this to you guys. You're welcome to go to the link and look at it and see if it's of any interest. And if so, just let us know and we'll figure out how to get you registered. And
what's the deadline for registration on that, Nicole?
It didn't have a deadline for registration, but they did say that it sold out last time. So the sooner the better.
I can't see the whole thing, Nicole. It's locked up. I can't scroll down.
Well,
But
yeah.
this might be similar to something that Carla and I went to a couple of years ago, and it was excellent, actually. So I would I'd like to look at it in more detail, but I'd like to probably go as well.
Yeah, I think, Frank, I think that was you and I that went.
Well, you and I went to one, and Carla and I went to one.
Right. I think that it was the one that you and I went to, and then
Okay.
we went to one about signs as well.
Yeah, right.
Any other items for future consideration?
No, sir.
Thank you. Going to adjourn.
everybody stay healthy and safe.
Good night.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Guys.
Hey, Rick, give me a call when you get a chance.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Adios.